All right, we're live. Mike Sadler, Speed and Shine TV. And, it may be the first day of spring, but here in Michigan, it didn't quite look like it, did it? Exactly. And a winter coat on.
Summer tires and below 45 just don't have much grip. So it's not just traction in snow. Summer tires just don't grip well when it's cold. So you have to think of that. So, Mike, what else do you think of?
Yeah, heat's a big one, especially if you're going to take your wife or significant other with you in the car. They're gonna want heat. So the Maverick has great heat. That's not a problem. I like to keep the heat in cars. Well, I know a lot of people take them out. One car that I had didn't have good heat was 66 Corvair convertible. That was some cold driving in the winter because it that that heat box around the exhaust manifold blows under your seat and supposed to go through the car, just like a Volkswagen. It never heated that car up. And then, being a convertible, it was even worse, right?
And the other thing with heat though is it goes to your carburetor and does like a preheat too. So it's also how well your car works when it's cold.
That's true. That's true. And you're talking to a guy here who, um, if it's a nice day in the winter on a Sunday or a Saturday and the roads are dry, I drive the cars. I take them out and drive them. I try to at least once a month do that. I find that I have less problems later on trying to get the car going in the spring. The brakes don't lock up. Um, I did notice one time I didn't drive the car for a while. It was a really cold winter, um, and it felt like when I drove it first, the tires were square, right? They had flat spots from sitting. I was really surprised by that. I think maybe it's the compound, they're Pirellis on the Mustang, but it felt like I was driving on square wheels for a while.
I wonder if that's like, well, the summer tire. What I do in storing, which could be a whole other podcast, but what do you do for storing?
Sure.
But I would always pump them up a little bit more. And I don't know, I never had much trouble with flat spine. I'd also put the car on carpet squares.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know if it ever worked, but I would do it and it didn't hurt. But I would get them out a mile or it just never became a problem.
yeah, I have.
I,
Where I'm looking for, they're
but yeah,
hanging on the wall over there. I don't know if I can move that. Those yellow things over there by the air compressor.
yeah.
Those,
Oh, like the tire cradle
yeah, you
things.
drive
Yeah,
up, but you can see I don't use them because the car doesn't sit long enough. But
right.
someone gave them to me as a
I
gift.
I think with flat spots, you try to do what you can to avoid them. Go out, set your tire pressure correct for the
Mhm.
season. You got to check that because it's going to be different temperature than what you had. It may have gone down.
You mean
Um,
you don't get your winter air out and put summer air in?
Obviously, I didn't think I had to mention that. Of course, you
Yeah,
want
who
my
doesn't do that,
new
right?
air. It's like changing the oil. You got to
Oh,
change the air.
yeah, and
Um,
speaking of that, when was the last
yeah,
time you heard anybody making a big deal about we put nitrogen in our tires? You don't hear
I
that.
was thinking, no, because our air is 80% nitrogen anyway. It's only 20% oxygen, so that's just stupid.
I
Um,
know.
Now, okay, so you mentioned like things are dry, but it's also salt on the roads.
Oh, that
And
you're right. So the number one thing I hear people say, car guys around me through the years, is I'm not taking it out until we have that big rain to wash the salt off the streets,
I'm one of
right?
them. I
Yeah.
I wait till I I kind of look out there. Now, I haven't gone to like, sticking my finger down there and like licking off some salt. I haven't done that, not that I admit, but I do wait for that rain. So it's got to be dry and you have to have a good rain to get rid of the salt. You just don't want the
Right.
salt there.
Right.
Because sometimes, yeah, it could be out there and it gets in your tires, it gets up in your body, and you don't want that. So
Yeah,
you wait for,
on those
yeah.
days that I've driven in the winter, I've come home and saw salt dust on the side of the cars, and just cleaned it off. I mean, it's Michigan. If you're going to enjoy your car, I don't know. Although I'm really reluctant after all the work I put into Maverick and the paint to have another rust hole. So I may, be a little overly protective with that car.
So I look for that. The other thing being, I have like a checklist. Okay, is it warm enough? Have I had that rain salt? Um, do I mind being bundled up? All that, but it's the potholes. And I know when I've had like my Porsches, they're a little lower. They don't like potholes,
Mhm.
and so I would be like, this time of year you go out. So if it's still March, you don't want. And
Yeah.
right, I mean that's always a problem. Um, I worry about potholes. Also, if I'm taking it, like you say, you take it out in the winter, I wouldn't start it up and run it unless it was going to run it long enough to get the temperatures up, because you want to get that all the water
Condensation out of the
out of
exhaust, all
out of
those
the
things. Yeah.
yeah, out of the exhaust, because otherwise you're driving around and then it just condensates and it just sits there in your exhaust. So I wouldn't go out unless it was like a half an
Right.
hour.
Baldy couple, huh? I do have hair though. I got some hair.
Be good. And then if it's like you said, that sometimes in November you get that freak warmer weekend, but then you kind of have to put it back. Um, and it's how you store your car. Now, some people have to use a storage facility and it's just locked out there. And once you get it out, it's out, and you may not be able to get it until. Is Audi a good car? Yes, I have two Audis. I've had a lot of them. I like
Yep.
Audis.
Good cars.
Oh, and Paul, my friend there, don't forget to change the blinker fluid. Obviously, I always change it before I store it, not in the spring. But we can argue about
Mhm.
that. So, but it's if you have it stored away, you have to get it out. And I've had that before. I had cars stored out like at a fairgrounds. I've had them in a
Oh,
barn,
really?
and
Mm.
you have to arrange a time. And like this weekend is it because we had to get all these other cars out before we got your car, and you got to come
Oh,
and you have to get it. So you got to show up. And usually I pull my battery, so I had to get my battery charged, get out there, put the battery in, and you had a slot to get it out. And that's that kind of makes the decision for you sometimes, and then you
yeah.
have to just get it out and then do all your other work. um, I also have stored cars in my current garage is like a 2.5, and you can kind of slide a car over there. It's not that bad. It just takes a little effort to carefully back it into the garage. So if I'm getting it out, it's like, okay, I can get it out, but I'll probably want to put it back in that corner again to keep all the cars in the garage. So you have to think of that. Is it worth it? So if you're going to take it out, make it worth it. And then you also have to think about re-prepping your car, or maybe like if you do get salt on it, do you want to go and wash that off?
Yeah,
Um,
it's eh, yeah, I guess people are lucky who live in warm climates because these are things they don't have to think about, right? Things they don't have to worry about. They
yeah,
just drive their car whenever they want, and enjoy it, but yeah, I mean, it comes down to washing the car. When is it too cold to wash a car outside? Some people are lucky enough to have a drain or heat. I
yeah,
have heat in the garage here, but I don't have a floor drain. I'm not gonna let water sit all over in here, but, there's other ways to wash a car. You can use a waterless wash or something, but um, most people put their cars away clean. I don't know if you did,
yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
I make sure they're clean. And I used to cover them with a cover, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was doing the
Mm-hmm.
body work on the Maverick, the Mustang over here was covered with two car covers and plastic to keep the Bondo dust off of it. It still got through it. Just so anybody knows, it's impossible. You could put your car in a big Ziploc bag, and I guarantee you, when you go to drive it, you turn the defrosters on, Bondo dust is going to come out somehow. But
Yeah. You're right. I would always clean them. I did it for my future self. I figured when I brought it out, I wouldn't want to have to go and vacuum and clean it. So I would usually, a week before storing, it may not be that day, I would at least wash it thoroughly, vacuum it all out, get it all nice, and then put it away. And that way it saves time when you want to bring it out. It's already ready. So
it's great.
I would do that. Um, and Okay, so some other things that we should get to is a question of should you be driving it? And that's where I said for my Porsches, I would sometimes couldn't drive them in March because the roads were too bad, too many potholes. April, I'd have to kind of wait until I felt the roads were safe enough.
Yeah, right
Um,
now, the roads are atrocious here. The
yeah,
potholes got to be refilled because the thaw freeze just pulled the stuff out, right? And so yeah, the Mustang's lower, got some stiff suspension on it. It's like a lumber wagon when you hit one of those. And sometimes you don't even, the worst I think is rain because you can't see how deep that is until you hit it.
y-
And then it's
a little too late. Yeah, so that might be you've got all those conditions right. It's somewhat warm enough. There's no snow. You can get your car out. The salt is gone, but you still don't want to drive your car because you could hit a pothole. unless you knew, that's where you might have to do a scouting trip to make sure it's okay and hope a new one doesn't open up. So you have to really think about your car, and if it's a classic, is it just to get it? You might have to say, I might have to wait a couple weeks. It'll be better, but it's going to be worth it.
I
It's
noticed though, when you take your car out early, your classic car, and you pull up to an intersection, you instantly become a traffic celebrity
Yeah,
because you're like the only cool car out there, and everybody's looking over like, should he be driving that right now? Isn't that going to rust? Everybody's paying attention to you, giving you the thumbs up and stuff. So that's
which is
always
pretty
cool.
cool. Just like having
Yeah.
the convertible with the top down and the heat
Mhm.
blasting. It's fun. It's like I'm done with winter, and so that now the other thing is, will it start?
Right. Will it start? Now,
I had
on both of these cars, for example, the Mustang has a quick, or the Maverick has a quick release battery because old cars draw. So even when it's in the garage, it's unhooked. So it doesn't have a parasitic draw. The battery stays okay, but the Mustang and our T-Bird both have to be plugged on a trickle charger. They'll go dead in 2 weeks. They'll be just flat dead.
I
So
just I believe in trickle chargers. I always had them, that bender battery tender, the little one, Junior, and I would plug it into the cigarette lighter. I had that
yeah,
option. And I mean, not all the time, but most of the time I'd use it, and certainly all winter, just do that. Or when I had to store cars at like a fairgrounds or a barn, I just took the battery out with me and then either left on a trickle charger or just once a month or so, put it on the charger, keep it up. I did have one time where I went to pick up the car out at the fairgrounds, put the battery in, it didn't start. It wouldn't go. And then it was finally like, okay, I'll push start it, um, which seemed like a good idea, but it was kind of muddy. Um, Fortunately, there was no video of that because it was too long ago. But got it
Mhm.
going. So that's it. You have to start. And for the Porsche, what I would always do is remove the um, fuel pump relay, and then I would
Mm,
turn it and crank it a little bit. The
okay.
idea was to get a little of the oil circulating without it catching and going. So it'd splash around some oil, build up a little pressure. Then I would put the fuel pump relay in and start it up. I don't know. That's what
It
I would
worked,
do.
right? It
It
worked.
worked. Yeah, I mean, it
Luckily,
would have started anyway. Sometimes, you have to wait a little bit because the fuel kind of worked its way back. But I
sure.
would always take that out, do a few cranks until the pressure got up, and then I would put the fuel pump in, relay in, and it would work fine. So we always have our little things we do to start them up, and it is a thrill each year.
The other
And
thing I do when it's stored, I store them with the windows halfway down or all the way down. I
hmm
learned that a long time ago. I've had people ask me, they said, Mike, I got in my cars in to get them ready to drive after they sat all winter as full mold. And they put them in, closed them, sealed, with the windows up in the garage with the car cover on it. And they got this little light, like green mold all over everything. And of course, it cleans up, but it's just something that happens in some cars. I have no idea why,
and there's always
but I
like
found keep the windows down, you don't have that.
And there's the off gassing from the plastic sometimes,
And
especially
it's
newer ones.
worse on the newer cars, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Because I would always have the cord coming in for the charger, then it was always open a crack. So I always had that. And
and
I
then
always put a cover.
the other weird thing I do, I close the hood, but I keep the hoods open on the cars a little bit when it's really cold, hoping that to deter mice. I mean, I got stuff around the garages,
Yeah.
to catch them and kill them. And but you hear these horror stories of vehicles getting attacked in a short time by a few mice, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And they go right through especially some of the German cars started getting these wiring harnesses that were recyclable, and mice loved them.
I
So
heard
yeah,
that it had there was a part of the plastic used like something almost like cooking oil based or
yeah,
something that
yeah.
really attracted them. Yeah,
hmm
something
So
along those lines.
that's always a problem. So you have to try to keep away mice. Um, what I was gonna say, so you have to, so really, before you even start up, take a good look over the car, make sure it's okay. There's no leaks. Um,
Well, well, if it's a classic car,
it's
check and
gonna
see
be
if
a
there's
leak.
more leaks than it had before. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I've
you know,
always had to
especially
put
a
like a big
Ford.
piece of cardboard under there and like, okay,
Mhm.
let's see. But look for
One
that.
year, 1 year, the Maverick didn't leak. New seals in the rear end, and I put on a new power steering pump and a new hose. Did everything. It didn't leak for a year, but then it started leaking again. And I think it's just common. I mean, classic cars just going to leak. You stick something underneath where those spots are in your garage and live with
Um,
it.
the other thing that I always look forward to is when I do start it, and it usually billows out like smoke. It's just the condensed water or whatever. It just usually at first startup sometimes just puts out some smoke, and then it doesn't take long. It warms up and goes away. Have you seen that?
Yeah, and I've also seen it where I was at someone's house and they started their car, and when it started, the mouse went flying out the exhaust. It was hilarious. I thought, yeah, that was absolutely hilarious. I was glad I got to see that. I wish I would have had a cell phone camera ready because that would have been really cool to see.
Next time. So, um, yeah, and then once you get it started, then I like, okay, idle, look around, make sure there's not like fuel leaks or any oil leaks or anything didn't develop. Looks good, and then get it out there and very carefully start slowly driving it, letting it get up to temperature, and don't put it right back because I think that's much more harmful. You really want it to get up to temperature and open up the thermostat, circulate everything, get it good, and then you can put it back in.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons when I was selling auto parts all those years ago, we sold a whole lot of Corvette calipers because you know they use the same one from 65 to 82, I think it was,
Mhm.
those four piston calipers. And the ones we sold were stainless steel sleeved with Teflon O-rings. I don't know. You know, it was all this elaborate stuff, and he used silicone fluid, and they did that because they knew the Corvettes were going to sit most of the year, and it
Right.
kept them from the calipers from
Fine.
freezing up and stuff. That's the other problem you could have when your car sits too long. You could have a caliper freeze up on you, or a wheel cylinder, or
I
something.
I've always worried about that, and what I would do is I would have the car in neutral. I would not keep the parking brake on, keep that off, and then I had some like wooden blocks around the car.
Hmm.
And just that way it was not going anywhere, but none of the brake run. And I never had a problem, but that's smart. So yeah, but there is a thrill in starting that car in the spring. And it is a
Oh,
sign of
you're
spring.
talking about a cold startup, right? The right car, sure, sure. Now, I remember as a kid too, it seems like I had relatives or something say, hey, if you're going to store a car, you put stabilizer in the gas
Yep.
and you apply wax to it. And you let the
Mhm.
wax sit all year and then you rub it off like, you know, turtle wax or something. Um,
Okay.
and I always thought that was odd because I've left wax years ago on a car thinking that would be a good idea. It was a bear to get it off, to be perfectly honest with you. I had to add some water to get the wax
The old
off. So not a good
stabilizer,
idea.
definitely.
Yeah.
Wax, I would buff it off. No, I wouldn't keep it
Well,
on.
and the bad thing is, when you do that, there's going to be dust now in that wax. So now you're almost sanding the car, trying to rub off the wax because now you got dust on
Yeah,
top of that wax.
not a good idea. And I would wax it before I stored it, but you can wax it in the spring if it's warm enough, if it's clean enough, and all that. And usually it's not warm enough. So, unless
I
you can
wonder
get
if
it
we
in
should
dust.
answer FD's question, why Mustangs always crash. And as a Mustang owner,
Yes.
here in watching people leave car shows on a regular basis and seeing it, and here's my opinion on this. Anybody who goes to work every day can afford to buy a Mustang, right?
Hmm.
I have a Mustang. Um, they they don't need much horsepower to break a tire loose. And
No.
there's a lot of people out there who don't understand horsepower on cold tires on asphalt, which is also made out of oil, just creates a situation that most people don't know how to handle that. When the car starts spinning, going sideways, they haven't went to a parking lot and practiced or anything, and that's what happens. And also, I think their emotions get to them. They get nervous, and they give the gas or give it more gas than they need to, and yeah, they get themselves in a situation. I watch those Mustang crash videos because I just can't believe people do that, and they wreck a lot of good cars. But having said that, there's Corvette crash videos. There's Mopar ones. They're all out there.
That's why you need an Audi TT, which was the other question, with all-wheel drive and all the
Right?
controls. And see, you're not going to crash an Audi TT. So there.
Yeah. I I I don't like that whole everybody lines up. Some of the car shows that I go to and involved that they do burnouts in a certain area,
Mm,
and I get that. Marshall Motors is always, Father's Day weekend. We raise a lot of money for cancer, American Cancer Society, and people should come, but they're safe about it, right? They have a place to do it, and that's a good way to do it. But when you're leaving a parking lot and you're entering a public street and you're a licensed driver driving a high horsepower car, God forbid if you do something dumb and hurt another person, a little kid, someone's grandma. I mean, it's not worth it. If you really want to, show that your car's all that and you're a great driver, buy a helmet, find your local racetrack,
yes.
and go drag
And
race it,
learn.
slalom race, or do something and
Hmm.
learn how to control that car the right way.
Yeah.
That would really impress people, right?
Yeah.
Doing a burnout in a parking lot with a high horsepower car and just
It's
doesn't
not
do
that
much.
impressive. No. No.
No. No, but you
So,
go run tens in the quarter mile or something, yeah, right? Then you impress us. But that's an opinion. So let the letters come in and the hate mail, right?
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So I don't know. I think we kind of covered today's topic. Um, our recommendation is when the temperatures are right, when it's dry, when you've had that rain to get the salt out, when you think there's not potholes, or at least you've scouted out a path to go, get it out. And when you get it out, drive it long enough to get it nice and warm.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. So when you put your cars in storage, did you change your insurance? Some people go into like storage insurance.
I used to. I would drop most of like the collision and all that, but keep like a liability or whatever, just in case, comprehensive, in case like
Mhm.
the barn fell down, and I put it back. But then you had to surrender your license plate, and so then I just gave up on that. And I got good collector car insurance, so I just kept it year round.
Yeah. Yeah. The Maverick, I have Grundy, and they take very
Yeah.
good care of me. As long as it's parked in a garage, it's so inexpensive. It's cash value. They made it really simple to sign up. And of course, this is no like they didn't pay us to say this or
No.
do anything. It's just they're a very good company. They take care of me. The Mustang though has regular insurance, full coverage, because there could be a time in the winter that I absolutely just have to drive it. Maybe my truck
Yeah.
breaks or whatever. It's my backup car, so it's going to get driven no matter what. So I don't save that money, but if I knew I wasn't going to drive the Mustang, I suppose I would uh, save some money and change that insurance to
Yeah.
storage or
But
whatever.
I think usually with collector car insurance, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's look at our list. I think we did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for joining. We'll post this out here and look for our next one. And get out and
Right.
drive your car.
Remember, it's never in style to drive a dirty car, so get washing.
Definitely. All right.
See
Bye,
ya.
everyone.